Hello everyone, welcome to the Cheating Confession Reddit channel. Thank you for listening to my story. I wish you and your family a peaceful and meaningful day. Now, let's sit back and enjoy the story together. Chatted for a while, and I told her about what happened with Collins. She was as shocked as I was. "You sure you got it right?" she asked. "Is this a joke?" "I wish it were," I said. She told me she was going on a date with some guy but didn't say who. Beck called Collins. The conversation was intense. She yelled at her for lying, accusing her of hiding things from her. Afterward, we sat in silence for a bit. I wrapped my arms around Beck as she sobbed. "She lied to me, Dad." "I know, sweetheart," I said. "It'll be okay." "I don't believe it will," she said, tears turning to anger. I didn't know what to say. I had no answers. We called Sylvia, who was at a club, and within 20 minutes she joined us. After a quick hello, we all sat down, discussing what might be going on with Collins. Davy snored at our feet, and we continued talking, trying to make sense of it all. Beck, as small as her mom, was a little blonde pixie, while Sylvia was 4 inches taller, with her mother's hair and eyes, like a darker version of Collins. She hugged us both. "What happened?" Sylvia asked, looking worried. "What's the emergency?" "I was at a party." Beck stared at her. "Are you high?" Sylvia laughed. "I had 2 margaritas and 1 cocktail." "Go make some coffee, Dad," Beck said seriously. "This is important." By the time I made the coffee, Beck had filled Sylvia in. Sylvia seemed shaken. "Daddy, I know there's more to this," Beck said. "Are you sure you're not hiding something? Fighting? Bedroom problems?" "We fight sometimes," I replied, "but less than when you both lived at home, mostly about you two." Beck punched me lightly. No bedroom problems that I know of. Mom hasn't said anything." "I need to talk to her," Sylvia said. "You both do." "Dad, why didn't you stay home and talk to her?" Beck asked. "Maybe I should have," I said, "but I was too angry." "Yeah, but we need to figure out what she's thinking," Beck said. "I'll try to talk to her soon," I said. "I just need to get a grip on myself first." "I'm coming with you," Beck announced. I'm grabbing my bag and a blanket for Davy. She went to get ready, and I took a cigarette from Sylvia's bag. I'd never been a regular smoker, but I needed something to calm me. We packed up, and Sylvia saw us off. "Talk to her tomorrow, Beck and Dad. Don't do anything stupid." "I'll try not to," I said. On the drive to the lake house, Beck asked a million questions. Some I could answer, others I couldn't. We reached the lake, took Davy down to the water, and spent time walking around. It felt good to have her by my side again. That evening, I made mojitos, and we talked more. "What do you think, Dad?" Beck asked. "I'm not sure," I said. "It's all messed up. She might say she's lost her mind and changed her mind, but if not, maybe therapy." Beck laughed. "A magic wand, huh?" "I'd try it," I said. "But if she's serious, then maybe court." "How could she want that?" Beck said. "I don't know. You'll be a psychologist soon," I said. "What makes someone do this?" "I don't know," Beck said. "Maybe revenge, or attraction, or just looking for what they're not getting." "I don't think any of that applies to Mom," I said. "She had issues she should have talked to me about." Beck agreed. "Yeah. We'll find out later." Sylvia and Beck both talked to Collins. Sylvia said she wasn't happy with her life and felt it lacked excitement. Some guy from a company was hitting on her, and she liked the attention. She said she loved me and that I could go on dates too. I took it in, trying to process it. "Is this like your situation?" I asked Sylvia. "Pretty much," she said and added, "I don't think it'll last long. She'll get over it." I was stunned. "What do I do in the meantime?" "Love her," Sylvia said. "Be patient, she's having a midlife crisis or something." Beck wasn't as sure. It's more than that. Well, what else can I do? Divorce her? I asked. Sylvia shook her head. No, just be patient, don't go crazy. She's the one who wanted this, Beck said, not Dad. She'll have to fix it. What will you do if she doesn't? Sylvia asked. Beck sighed. I don't know, but she has to get her head together. Until then, I'll distance myself. That's your choice, Sylvia said. Beck, frustrated, shot back, if you can't see that Mom's pulling the strings, you've got the same problem she does. I tried to stay calm, not let this get out of hand. I hugged both of them, but the tension was still there. Beck let me pull her close, but Sylvia grabbed her bag and stormed out. We watched her get in the car, headlights on then off. She started to back up, hesitated, and finally drove off. God, I'm so mad at her, I muttered. Beck was just as angry. I'm sorry, Dad, but that was crap, she said, pressing against me. I paused and sighed. Yeah, it is, but this isn't Sylvia's mess, Beck, it's your mom's. I felt the weight of it. You and Sylvia shouldn't be in the middle of this. We had a special family. I'm closer to you two than most dads are. You shouldn't be dealing with her stuff. Beck's voice softened. I'm sorry, Dad, it's not your fault. You're right, I said. It's Mom's mess, but Sylvia acting like it's no big deal and we just have to wait, that's crap too. Don't burn any bridges, I added. I'll talk to her, work something out. I love you, Beck, I don't want you to hurt anymore. She hugged me tightly. I trust you, Dad, just keep me close. Okay, always, I will, I promised. It's time to face this. I can't avoid it anymore. When I pulled up to the garage, Collins's car was there. I sat for a moment, trying to center myself, then went inside, stomach in knots. I grabbed some milk to settle it. Collins was in her office. She came out when she heard me. She looked as bad as I felt. Hi, I said. I'm glad you're back. Okay, she gave me a hard look. Collins, I'm a long way from okay, I said. I know, she whispered. I just needed to feel safe. Want to talk? She asked. Here or in the living room, she added. Let's be comfortable, I replied. She poured juice, I grabbed a box of crackers, and we sat on the couch about a foot apart, which felt strange. There was some tension. I owe you an apology, Barnes, she said. I did everything wrong. I raised a hand. Collins, if you think mismanagement is the problem, we're wasting time. She was confused. What do you mean? Let me be clear, I said. You can't just tell me you're going on a date and expect that to make it okay. Do you get that? I get what you mean, but you don't get what I mean, she said. Okay, tell me, I said. By managing it, I should have explained it, made you okay with it, she said. I'm afraid you need magic to do that, I replied. Do you have magical powers now? She smiled. Not magic, but almost. I spread my hands. The floor is yours, Miss LaFay. I want you to think about this, she said. We're 48 and 49. How old does that feel? 49, I said. She laughed. Yeah, but it's not the body, it's the mind, the emotions. Remember when we were 25? She asked, her voice softening. I remember everything, I replied. Back then, everything felt alive, she continued, like there were endless possibilities. Everything sparkled. Love was new every day. Do you remember? Yes, I said, I remember. Now, our lives are the same every day, she sighed. Sundays are the same, church or sleep in, make dinner, watch soccer. Everything is repetitive. You're right, I agreed. I love doing these things, but I want more, she continued. I want to explore new things, feel alive again. I get that, I said, but what makes you think I don't want something new? You think we can't do things together? I think we could, she said. I'm going on a date. When I get back, I'll tell you all about it. You could do that too. But once you bring someone else in, it's not together anymore, I said. She paused. How long has it been since you spent time with another woman? 6 months, I guess, I said. Other than family, of course. Remember when we went to Kansas City with Amber? She asked. I know Amber. We're friends, nothing more. But she's gorgeous and single. What if you two went out, had dinner, danced? Wouldn't that get your motor running? Maybe that's why I don't, I said. She raised an eyebrow. Why not? Because I'm married to you, I said. I don't put myself in a situation where I'm attracted to anyone but you. She sighed. Maybe 10 years ago, I wouldn't have put up with it, but I'm more mature now. I'd let you do the same. But I wouldn't, I said. That's not what I signed up for. Collins, you promised me. I promised you. She asked. If you want to leave, that's fine, I said. Well, it's not great, she said, but it is what it is. I said, if you're determined, I can't stop you. I only control myself. I don't want to leave, she said. I just want more freedom. I want to feel spontaneous, but not leave the house. Are you going to do it even if I don't like it? I asked. She hesitated. I'm inclined to say yes. The fact that you think that you've already planned it out, tells me a lot. I don't think you've been communicating with me, I said. What else have you been hiding? And your stunt on Friday? I'm sorry, she said. I was mad you left when I wanted to talk. That's a lie, I shot back. You planned this long before Friday, and you lied to Beck too. You're good at it. I let my anger spill out. I told you we could talk, but you dodged it. I'm done with the nonsense. You've already made it clear this is what you want. That's all that matters. I don't control you, but I control me. I'll get my stuff together, she said. What the hell, Barnes? That's not what I want, she protested. I'm not doing it, I said. But you will, I replied. You've already made it clear you think I'm boring, and you want excitement. Even if you don't act on it, I'll always know you think that. We want different things, Collins. It's time to move on. I went to the basement, grabbed my luggage, and packed essentials for a week. As I worked, Collins followed me, insisting we could work things out. I ignored her. Once my things were in the truck, she tried to get in, but the doors were locked. She stood in the driveway as I drove off, a heart-wrenching sight. I loved her, but this time I couldn't see a way forward. To distract myself, I stopped at the grocery store, but on the drive to the lake, the weight of everything returned. I turned on a podcast, but by the time I arrived, I couldn't recall a word. Exhausted, I brought my things inside, too drained to even call the girls. About an hour later, my phone rang. It was Sylvia. I'm at the lake, I said when she asked where I was. Well, I'm at your house, she replied. Mom called me. As we talked, Beck called. I told Sylvia I'd call her back and answered Beck, promising to return her call. Then I went back to Sylvia. She's a mess, Dad. You should be here with her, Sylvia said. I know, I admitted, but this isn't something we can fix over the phone. She sighed. I'll stay tonight, but I have work tomorrow. You do what you need to, I told her. Your mom and I are adults. I love you, Daddy, she said quietly. I love you too, I replied. I called Beck back. She was packed and asked if she could spend the week with me since her classes were online. You don't have to ask, I said. Come anytime. An hour later, she arrived with Davy, who sniffed at the food I was prepping. After a quick hug, we sat down to eat. It didn't go well with Mom, did it? She asked. No, I said. She claims she's bored and wants to feel young again. Beck rolled her eyes. If she were my client, I'd say she's going through a transitional phase, not a midlife crisis. It's about facing mortality and clinging to youth. Do you think she should see a therapist? I asked. She needs to. But she has to want it herself, Beck replied. Sylvia joined us the next evening. Over dinner, she shared, Mom says she's sorry and wants you to come home. Sorry for what? I asked. For what she's done or just how she handled it? Sylvia hesitated. I'm not sure. She told me she feels stuck and wants excitement. I explained, the problem is she doesn't want to share that excitement with me. She wants it with other men. Both girls were stunned. What are you going to do? Sylvia asked. She feels how she feels, but I can't just ignore it, I said. Sylvia suggested therapy, and Beck agreed to provide a referral if Collins asked for help. But she has to choose it for herself, Beck said. We can't force her. We ended the night with more questions than answers, but at least I felt supported by my girls. Sylvia left feeling upset. She hugged us, said she loved us, and promised she'd always come back. Beck kept a cool distance from Collins, rarely mentioning her in the weeks that followed. Sylvia kept me updated regularly, but Collins refused therapy, though she suggested couples counseling. I asked Beck for her opinion, and she thought it was pointless. She believed counseling wouldn't help unless Collins addressed the root of her dissatisfaction. Otherwise, it would just cover up her feelings or try to get me to agree with what she wanted. Are you ready for this? Beck asked. No, I'm not interested in other women, and even less in sharing her with other men, I replied. Sylvia, who was there, added, what if you think of it as a break from marriage and hook up with some hot chicks for a while? Once Mom's past her glitch, you can go back to normal. Yeah, sure, I said, but what if she gets bored again in a few years? I don't even know any hot chicks to sleep with, and I'm not looking for that. They both laughed. I'm not interested, Sylvia said, and I agreed. 2 months later, with no change in sight, I filed for divorce. Collins called right away, upset. Are you divorcing me? You have no reason to, she said. I'm filing for a no-fault divorce, I answered. There's nothing to explain. I'll be there. We need to talk, she said. I was preparing dinner when she arrived, looking as stunning as ever. Though I felt uneasy, she tossed her purse on a chair and came over to hug me, then kissed me. I wasn't ready for that, and though she seemed hurt, I couldn't respond the way she wanted. We talked as we set the table. I don't want a divorce, Collins said. I don't get it. I replied, why not? Because I love you, she said. I want to spend the rest of my life with you. But you've been unhappy for a long time, I countered. I just wanted to add to our satisfaction, she said. I'm having fun with other men, and I think we should divorce so you can do the same. That's not what I want, I said. She sighed, well, I'm doing it anyway. We can both live our lives the way we want. But I don't want to be married to someone who does that, I said. We finished dinner, then moved to the couch. Is that it? She asked. I love you, but I've chosen to let go, I replied. She kissed me again, but I couldn't reciprocate. She asked if she could date others, and I said maybe, but I didn't feel the same way about her anymore. She left upset. The divorce proceeded, her lawyer requested counseling, which I refused. The judge said he had to order it, but I refused to comply, even threatening contempt. Eventually, we withdrew the petition. Collins seemed bugged, but I told her I wouldn't be forced into anything. I wasn't talking to her unless she changed her behavior. For 2 months, she tried everything, messaging me through Sylvia, showing up at the lake house, even at my work. I ignored her, changed the locks, and refused to engage. Eventually, she gave up, telling Sylvia she would no longer seek counseling. We filed the uncontested divorce, and everything was finalized without drama. I kept the lake house, she kept the townhouse, and everything was split fairly. I focused on my future, buying businesses and starting to retire. I spent my summers fishing, water skiing, and enjoying time with the girls. By October, I applied for a visa to become a resident of Mexico, planning to live there for 180 days. I got a new truck, camper, and boat, then headed to Sinaloa, Mexico, to make it my new home. The girls weren't thrilled at first, but when I promised them a trip to the beach, they were excited. The first week I was in Mexico, I bought a 5-acre plot near the lake, set up utilities, and by the end of the month, I was a local. On my second fishing trip, I caught a 14-pound bass, and I was hooked. Sylvia visited in January, and we spent a few days in Puerto Vallarta. I suggested she stay with me or get a hotel. She chose the hotel. We had a great time, and on the last day, as we lounged by the ocean, she asked, "You're not coming back, are you, Daddy?" "I haven't decided," I said. "I'll always come back to see you girls, but I'm leaning towards staying here." "What about Mom?" she asked. "She's fine, I guess," I replied. "She's working a lot, but I think she regrets everything." "How do you know?" she asked, sounding curious. "She doesn't say it, but she seems reserved now," I explained. "Definitely not as energetic as before. I think she's a little sad and disappointed by the dating scene." "Sorry to hear that," Sylvia said, "but I'd rather not talk about her, if that's okay." We moved past it and had fun. After hugs and tears at the airport, she flew back home. In February, Beck came to visit. She insisted on staying in the camper, and after a few days at the beach, she asked, "Where do you really live, Daddy?" I told her about my place, and we drove to see it. When she saw the lake view and the barns I had built, she was impressed. "I can't believe you live here, it's beautiful," she said. "I'm lucky," I replied. "It would be even better if you lived here." She gave me a hard look. "I don't know how I'd make a living. I want to use my degree." "Do you know what my degree is?" I asked. "I'm sure you told me, but I don't remember," she replied. "It's agribusiness," I said, and she laughed. "Farming? What does that have to do with it?" "I started making machine parts for farm equipment. It just took off from there," I explained. "Wow, I had no idea," she said. "You can use your degree in different ways," I teased. "I'm a psychologist." "What do you mean?" "Bartenders listen to people's problems all the time," I joked. She laughed. "I guess you're right." Beck left after 2 weeks, and I missed her for a while before slipping back into my routine. 6 months later, she called. "I need a favor," she said. "Sure, what's up?" I replied. "I need a loan," she said. "How much?" I asked. "A big one," she replied. "For what?" I pressed. "I want to buy a cabin," she explained. "Is it a business?" I asked. "Yes," she said. "It's on Lake Baraka. I've gone over the books with an accountant, and they make good money. I'll be running a bar, so I'll still get to listen to people's problems." I laughed. "That sounds perfect. How much do you need?" She gave me a big number. "Wow, Beck, that's a big investment," I said. "Go big or go home," she joked. "Don't you have enough?" I asked. "Not if you help me," she replied. "Once I get the business, I can get bank financing." "I'm proud of you, Beck. Let's do it." 3 weeks later, Beck arrived to see the cabin. It was a great investment, mostly catering to us fishermen. 6 months after she took over, Beck was running the place successfully, and I spent a lot of time there with her. One evening, I was sitting at the bar when the chef asked if he could seat another guest with me. I agreed, not expecting much. When he returned, he introduced me to Miss Valiente, a stunning woman with dark eyes and glossy black curls. Her dress was a bold yellow, accentuating her figure. As she sat down, I stood to greet her. "Barnes, please, no mister," I said as we shook hands. Dinner was great. Her voice was low and smooth, and her laughter was music to my ears. "You can call me Nita," she said, smiling warmly. Her English had a lovely accent, and I was captivated by her presence. She'd already ordered, and the waitress brought her a glass of something that looked like sangria. I was at a loss for words. This woman was full of surprises. "It's pretty crowded," I said, breaking the silence. "Lucky they had this table," she replied with a smile. "I didn't make a reservation," I admitted. "Usually Tomas finds me a spot, but tonight I didn't want to sit at the bar. There's someone I'd rather avoid." "I see," she said, nodding. "Well, it doesn't matter," I continued. "I'm just glad it worked out. I get to look at you and hear your voice. Thank you for keeping the obnoxious guests away," she joked. She blushed, a soft peach tint spreading across her cheeks. "I'm very pleased to have such a gallant protector," she said, her smile widening. Her laugh sent a shiver down my spine. "Do you come here often?" she asked, her voice light. "Yes," I said. "My daughter owns this place, and even though I can cook, I come here. No one else is going to make my dinner." "Ah, sweet Beck," she said, smiling warmly. "I really like her. We're becoming friends." "Really? I'm glad to hear she's making friends," I said. "Do you live nearby?" she asked, her curiosity piqued. "I do," I said. "I have a house on the Kuala River, but I also spend time in Las Machas." "You live pretty close," she observed. I chuckled. "Yeah, I'm mobile. I've got 5 acres with a couple of buildings, a truck, and a camper. I like to travel and can go anywhere, anytime." "I see," she said, nodding thoughtfully. "You moved here from the U.S., like Beck?" "I've been here about a year," I replied. "I came before Beck. She visited, fell in love with the place, and bought a cabin." "What brought you here?" she asked, her gaze steady. "Fishing was the main thing," I explained. "I sold my business in the U.S. and wanted to travel more." "What kind of business did you have?" she asked, then paused. "Sorry, that's none of my business." I laughed. "No, it's fine. I made parts for companies like Caterpillar and John Deere." "Ha, an industrial tycoon," she teased with a bright smile. "Not quite," I said. "I've been retired for a while." "But you're so young," she said. "I was lucky, I guess," I said. "Retirement at 49 is luck, right?" "I'm not retired," she said. "I could be, but I still have things to do." "Like what?" I asked. "I'm a smuggler," she said quietly. I stared at her, and she laughed. "I'm not really a smuggler," she corrected. "I own a pharmaceutical company. We supply pills to the Mexican Social Security Institute." "Wow, that's impressive," I said. "I live in Las Machas too," she added. She looked at me curiously. "Maybe I should retire and become a Barnes," she said, pausing. "What do you think? Loose legs and fantasy?" I laughed. "A slacker and a dreamer." "I did have English," she added. "You speak amazing English," I said. "I speak Spanish better than me," she teased. "Take aquí?" she asked in Spanish. "I'd like to know what you do," I said. "Aw, you want to know about me?" she said, smiling. "Okay, I'll tell you. I have a lot of land along the river, some horses, and plenty of cattle." "What kind?" I asked. "Gelbia cattle," she replied. "I don't know them personally," I admitted, not wanting to sound ignorant. She burst into giggles. "I don't know them personally either," she said, "but I'll introduce you to some." "I'm amused by you, Nita," I said, not giggling but smiling. She gave me a playful look. "I have to ask, though. Does Mr. Valiente exist?" "No," she said. "He did. He worked at a petrochemical plant. There was an accident, an explosion, and he was eliminated." "God. I'm so sorry," I said, horrified. "It's okay," she said softly. It happened 11 years ago. I remember the good times. I nodded. Losing someone is painful, but over time you hold on to the good memories. What about you? She asked. Beck has a mother, right? Yes, I said, and I have another daughter, Sylvia. She's 3 years older than Beck. I showed her a photo of Sylvia on my phone. She's beautiful, Nita said. She doesn't live here? No, I said. She lives in the States with her mother. My wife and I divorced almost 2 years ago. Is that a sore subject? She asked. It was, I said. We wanted different things. She wanted an open marriage, I didn't. I'm sorry to hear that, she said gently. It's life, I said. Say, Nita, how about dinner next weekend? I'd love to, but not this coming weekend, she replied. I have to leave for Las Machas, but I'll be back Tuesday. How about the Friday after that? Sounds perfect, I said. Can I have your number to make a reservation? Sure, she said, entering it into my phone. Maybe when you pick me up, I'll introduce you to my cattle, she added with a laugh. I walked her to her car, a sleek silver BMW Z4. Nice car, I said, admiring it. Before she got in, she kissed me on the cheek, and I felt a spark. You were a wonderful dinner companion, she said. Thanks for letting me join you. The pleasure was mine, I said. I'm looking forward to our dinner. You have my number, she said, smiling. Call me in the afternoon. I will, I promised. I watched her drive away, still feeling electrified. When I walked into the house to say goodnight to Beck, I was walking on air. She opened the door, grinning. Did you like her? Isn't she amazing? You set me up, didn't you? I asked. Yep, she said with a wicked grin. I told her you were perfect for each other. Did you really? Ask her out, of course. She's going away for a week, but we're having dinner next Friday. Well, I'll need a car, I said. You can borrow mine, Beck offered. Thanks, honey, I said, but I'll need my own soon. The next day, I texted Nita. I can see it now. 2 women plotting against me. She replied with heart emojis. Resistance is futile, she told me. You told her everything, didn't you? My own daughter, I said. I'm looking forward to our date, she replied, sending more emojis. Every day my anticipation grew. It felt like high school again, waiting for a first date. I remembered talking to Collins about how he missed the excitement and anticipation. Strange. But I felt it again. I wondered if she did too. I messaged Nita daily, and she responded a few times, sometimes calling. It was easy to talk to her in both Spanish and English, as if we'd known each other for years. She called when she got back, and the excitement only intensified. I drove the truck to the cabin and swapped it for Beck's car. The truck was fine, but it felt a bit awkward for a first date. I followed the directions along the river, the road mostly empty with just a few houses. When my phone told me to turn onto a paved path, I found a gate instead of a house. I pressed the call button and waited. Hola, a young voice came through. S. Barnes, I said. She laughed. I'm glad you're here. I look forward to meeting you. The gate opened, and I drove down a winding 2-mile driveway until I spotted the house, a huge mansion perched on a cliff overlooking the river. I rang the doorbell, and a young girl answered. She was around 12 or 13, stunningly beautiful. An older woman stood behind her. Hello, I'm Pia. Nita is my mother, she said, offering her hand. It's a pleasure to meet you, I replied. Pia, I said, you look just like your mother. You're as beautiful as she is. Do you speak English? She asked, blushing slightly. Yes, I do, I said, and I hear you speak French too. She grinned. I want to take your mom out to dinner. Is that okay? I chuckled. You're a flatterer, and I'm not old, she added with a giggle. Just like your mother, I said. That was really bad, she teased, but I could tell she was enjoying the banter. She's my best friend and helps with the house when Mom's gone, Pia explained. Mom's getting ready. Would you like a drink while we wait? Asked the older woman. Lemonade sounds great, I replied. Pia led me into a spacious, open-plan room with a living area, dining room, and kitchen. This is Zanetta, she introduced. Nice to meet you, I said. She helps take care of me and the house when Mom's away, Pia said. Mom's almost ready. Would you like a drink, Mr. Barnes? Zanetta asked. What do you recommend? Lemonade, she said. We have other drinks too. Lemonade it is, I said. You don't need to call me Mr. Barnes, I added. Okay, just Barnes, Pia said, her eyes sparkling with mischief. But it sounds funny. I laughed. You're a joker. Let's take the lemonade outside, Pia said. We went out to the porch, and Pia led me down to a huge mahogany deck with vine-covered beams and fans spinning slowly. The view of the river and valley was incredible. I really like it here, Pia said. Yeah, it's beautiful, I agreed. But I think your mom will be ready soon. Oh, she'll be ready soon enough. She likes to make an entrance, Pia said with a sly smile. Just then, a voice called from the stairs. Nita appeared at the top, stunning in a white linen dress. The sight of her took my breath away. Wow, you look amazing, I managed to say. Thank you. She smiled. I see you've met Pia. Yes, and it's been a pleasure, I said, shaking Pia's hand. You're a charming young lady. Nita smiled and said, I wanted Pia to be a surprise. She's my world. I can see that, I replied. The restaurant was incredible. The mariachi band was huge, and the energy was electric. Nita was a fantastic dancer, and I struggled just to keep up. She knew every dance. From salsa to tango, the slow dance at the end was magical, holding her close felt like a dream. Afterward, we returned to her place, and at her door, she kissed me. It was unforgettable. Before I left, Nita invited me to bring Beck and spend the day with her and Pia next Saturday. She even let me take a snap to send Beck, then gently touched my cheek, sending a wave of euphoria through me. Later that week, Sylvia called. Dad, when can I hang out with you and Beck? She asked. How about 8 tonight? I suggested. I'll be at Beck's place. Great. Could you ask her and send me a snap? She replied. Sure, I'll do it. Everything okay? I asked, sensing something was off. Yeah, I just need to talk to you, Sylvia said. We arranged plans, and when we spoke later, Sylvia told me she was tired of living with her mom and wanted to move in with us. She'd already bought a travel agency that books cabins, including Beck's. Wow, you've really thought this through, I said. I just wanted to ask if you'd be okay with it, she said, her voice tinged with uncertainty. Of course. I'd love to have you here. You and Beck will be great together, I said. Beck was thrilled, and we talked for a while. Later, sitting in the camper, I thought about how my life was unfolding. It felt like everything was falling into place, Beck, Nita, and now Sylvia, all coming together. On Friday, I asked Nita if she needed anything. Beck says you make a great pico, she said. Bring it over. I went to the market, got fresh ingredients, and made a big bowl of pico. On Saturday, we drove the truck to Nita's. I wasn't sure what she and Pia would think about my truck. They clearly weren't poor, and neither was I had chosen to live this way, but would they see it as strange? I guess we'd find out. As we arrived, Pia ran up and threw herself at Beck. She gave me a more reserved hug, but still a warm welcome. We're going to the river, she said. Mom made everything for the taco feast. Sounds great, Beck said. Pia led us inside, where Nita and Zanetta were packing coolers and baskets for the trip. We helped, and everything was ready fast. Pia says Barnes brought his truck. He'll be perfect for transporting everything, her phrasing made me laugh. What a delightful girl. We loaded up, and I drove down the winding driveway with Nita in the front seat and Beck and Pia in the back. It's good to have you with us, I said. I'd never find my way out here. There are a few roads, Nita said. Some barns and paddocks along the way. At the river, we found a gazebo with a grill, 2 picnic tables, and 3 jet skis. Nita had planned a grill, but since we had the truck with a stove, we could use that. I'd love to see inside your house, Pia said. Well, I'll give you the grand tour, I replied. We prepped the taco shells in the oven, and I showed them around the truck. Pia checked out everything, and while they carried stuff to the tables, I took the chance to kiss Nita. Her kiss was intense, and I could feel the chemistry between us. Hello, beautiful, I said, pulling away. Couldn't wait to be alone with you. She smiled, breathless, and said, I'm glad you wanted it. After some lunch, Pia asked, want to go jet skiing? The girls went to change, and I admired the jet ski system as Pia chatted with me. We quickly got the jet skis in the water, and Nita led the way upstream. After a few miles, Nita pointed out a cliff with a rope swing. We turned off the engines and headed toward it. Want to swing on the rope? Nita asked. Pia was practically jumping with excitement. You have to. It's so much fun. Beck went first, swinging across the river. That was fire. She called. Daddy, you have to do it. Pia went next, and then it was my turn. I hesitated, but finally forced myself off the cliff. The fall felt exhilarating, and I splashed into the water. We spent more time riding the jet skis and sunbathing afterward, then packed up to head back. Nita invited me to stay for dinner. How are you feeling, Daddy? Beck asked. I'm good, just a little tired, I said. Sun and water wear me out. Beck smiled. I meant about Nita and Pia. Well, Pia is a doll, impossible not to like. As for Nita, I never expected this. She's beautiful, warm, funny, smart, and a great mom. She's everything. I know, Beck said. I definitely want her. She feels the same way, Beck added. She said you might be the one. I smiled. There can only be one. Yeah, don't screw it up, Beck teased. I'll do my best, I replied. Thanks. Later that evening, I drove home feeling a mix of excitement and anticipation for what was to come with Nita. Nita and I started seeing each other regularly, and I fell for her more every day. I'd take Pia fishing or go water skiing with them, and as the months passed, I knew I was completely in love with Nita. When we were together, I was happier than ever. When we were apart, I couldn't stop thinking about her. We texted constantly, and every date ended with a kiss. I knew she was special, and I wanted to make every moment perfect. Beck, Sylvia, and Pia all adored Nita too. We'd all spend time together, and sometimes it was just the girls hanging out. On Monday, I called Nita and suggested we go to Tulum for the weekend. She immediately called me back. Really? I've always wanted to go. I've heard it's beautiful and has Mayan ruins, she said. She was in Las Magas, and I told her I'd drive there, and we could fly out from there. What about Pia? She asked. Is it just for us, or do you have a plan for her? I was planning to take her with me, I said. I also thought I'd ask Beck and Sylvia to join us, make it a family trip. She was quiet for a moment. Barnes, I'm really touched that you consider Pia and me family. You're a good man, she said. I'm glad you think so, I replied. And I hope Sylvia and Beck can come. They're like daughters to me. I know they love you, and Pia does too, I said. Do you love me? Very much, she asked. I was caught off guard but quickly replied, Nita, I want to tell you everything in person, not over the phone. Okay. Yes, I understand, she said. I apologize for asking you over the phone. I added, we go to Tulum, and I'll ask you again in person. She said. I laughed. Looks like I'm not getting out of this. I checked flights. One leaves at 3 p.m. Can you make it by then? I'll arrange it, she said. Drive carefully with my daughters. It turned out Sylvia and Beck could join us, and Pia was thrilled. We packed up and set off on the long drive. One of the best trips I'd had. Pia was our DJ in the back seat, picking songs that mostly annoyed me while I tortured them with my own choices. After picking up Nita, we made it to the airport without issues. Tulum was exactly as Sylvia promised. She suggested an all-inclusive package, and our beachfront hotel was luxurious. We spent Saturday walking the beach, playing in the water, and dining at an open-air restaurant. Beck and Sylvia wanted to take Pia to a beach party and said she'd stay in their room that night. That left Nita and me alone. We walked back to the hotel, and I pulled her close. Well, that wasn't obvious at all, I joked. I think we've been set up. Nita laughed. Do you mind? Not at all, she said. In my room, I made drinks, and we settled on the couch, her snuggling up to me. Nita, you asked me if I love you, I began. I love you more than I ever imagined. From the moment we met, you've been on my mind. You filled my heart in life. I love you. She looked into my eyes, her gaze deep and full of emotion. That makes me so happy, she said softly. I love you too. After Emiliano died, I didn't know if I could love again, but now I have you, and my heart belongs to you. I want to give you the rest of me too, she added, her voice filled with sincerity. I whispered, I've wanted this since I first saw you. You're the most beautiful woman I've ever met. I didn't mean to scare you off. I'm not scared, she replied, her eyes steady on mine. The only thing scary would be if you didn't love me. Am I crazy? I asked, my voice tinged with uncertainty. I'd have to be crazy not to love you, she said with a smile. God, Nita, don't ever doubt it, I said, my heart full. You're the most desirable woman I've ever met. I can't believe there aren't men lining up for you. She laughed. I don't need thousands, just one. Later, we made love and went to sleep. I woke up to sunlight streaming through the curtains, Nita peacefully asleep in my arms. After a while, there was a knock on the door. Come back with a warrant, I shouted. A giggle followed. Daddy, let us in. It was Beck. I quickly threw on my robe, and Nita covered herself with the blanket. The girls barged in, rolling a breakfast cart to the bed. Beck and Sylvia pounced on Nita, laughing and talking nonstop. Pia sat on my lap, her arms around my neck. You love her, don't you? She asked. I love you, I said. And I love you, she replied, squeezing me tight. I knew you loved us, she added. Mommy is in love with you, I asked. I want to be your daughter, like Beck and Sylvia, Pia said. Tears of happiness welled up in my eyes. I hugged her tightly. I'm honored you feel that way about me, sweet bug, I said. I'll do everything I can to be everything you need. Are you marrying Mom? Pia asked. So we can be a real family? I looked at Nita, and the girls were all watching me expectantly. There's nothing in the world I want more, I said, but I think I should talk to your mom first, just the two of us. I leaned closer to Pia and whispered, I don't have a ring yet. She smiled. I understand. We had breakfast, then rushed downstairs to catch the shuttle to the Mayan ruins. The sight was incredible, and having Nita on one side, looking at me with love, and Pia holding my hand on the other made it even more special. We flew back Monday morning, feeling tired but happy with unforgettable memories. After dropping Nita off for work, I took the girls ring shopping. We found a talented jeweler from the K tribe who made beautiful pieces. The girls fell in love with a red-orange fire opal. I don't think it's right for an engagement ring, I said. We need something like diamonds. No, Mom will love it, Pia insisted. She said that? Sylvia asked. Yes, Pia replied. She'll love it, Dad. We compromised by adding 4 small diamonds around the opal. The jeweler said it would be ready in 2 weeks. All I had to do was choose a time and place. I told Nita I wanted to return to the gazebo by the river. She knew what was coming but simply told me to come by when I could. That evening, I was eager to know what I was doing, but I managed to keep the surprise. I knelt in the gazebo, and when Nita saw me, her hand went to her mouth. I took her hand and said, Nita, I'm not great with speeches, but I love you with all my heart. I don't want to live without you or Pia. Will you marry me? I promise to make you never regret saying yes. I opened the ring box, and she held out her hand as I slipped the ring on. She smiled and said, Barnes, I want to be your wife. I want to love you forever. She admired the fire opal. I can't believe you got one, it's my favorite stone, she said. A little birdie told me, I said. I think I know that bird, she said, her eyes filling with tears. When we returned, Pia was waiting and ran to us, excited. I can't believe it. You're going to be my dad, Barnes. She burst into tears. I hugged her. I thought this would make you happy, sweetie. I thought we'd never find anyone, she said softly. You found me, I said. I'll never let you go, Pia. She clung to me for a while before pulling back. It's just so much. I laughed. You've been hanging out with Beck too much, you're starting to sound like her. She's teaching me good words, Pia giggled. We set the wedding date for December 5th. I was the happiest man alive when Nita walked down the aisle in gold. She said she was breaking tradition. She had worn white before I moved in with her, but she insisted we keep the camper. We might want to take a long vacation, she said. I took the camper off the truck and set it up, but we used the truck without it for more comfort. I couldn't have been happier. The only hiccup came 2 years later when Sylvia sat me down for a talk. Mom wants to visit, she said nervously. I sighed. When does she want to come? For Christmas, Sylvia said. I looked at her. What do you want, honey? Sylvia hesitated. I want to spend Christmas here with you, but I have to spend part of it with Mom. Beck's staying here, right? I asked. Then you can still be here for part of it. Sylvia teared up. I still love her, Dad. I remember everything she did for me. I pulled her into a hug. I'm proud of you, Sil. It's going to be okay. You can still spend time here. Tell your mom you've already made plans for Christmas dinner, she'll have to deal with it. It's hard, Sylvia said, wiping her eyes. I'll talk to Nita. She's smarter than me. Let's see what she thinks. Sylvia spent the day with Pia and me, and we had dinner before she left. Nita returned from Los Mochas after 2 days, and I brought up Sylvia's visit and her news while we sat by the fire. Nita sipped her wine and thought for a moment. What do you think about meeting her? Nita asked. I replied, I figured it was bound to happen. She's the girl's mom, and I knew she'd want to see them eventually. I don't have any strong feelings for her. We had great times, but the way things ended left a bad taste. Nita snuggled up to me. I think we should have dinner together at the cabin. I want to meet her, see what she's like. Really? I said, surprised. Yes, she replied. She's been a part of your life and the girls' lives. I think it's better if we all meet together. I was nervous, but Nita always did what she thought was right. She was independent, and that sometimes kept me on edge. I knew when Collins arrived. She stayed at Beck's cabin, and the girls spent more time with her. Nita met Collins, but if there were any issues, she didn't mention them. I asked Nita what she thought of Collins. I like her, Nita said. Really? I raised an eyebrow. Yes, she's changed a lot. Sylvia and Beck agree, she's more introspective now, and she's gotten friendly with us. That's good, right? I said. Yes, Nita added. We talked about you. God. I hope you weren't listening, I joked. She laughed. Of course, I was, but she only said good things. I'll just argue with her then, I teased. Well, she didn't admire your stubbornness, Nita said. Of course not, I replied. It's fine, Nita smiled. You're still snuggling with me. The rain poured 2 days before Christmas, and the river flooded, so we spent the night saving the dock and fixing the fence. Christmas morning, I repaired the fence before lunch, expecting Sylvia and Beck to have arrived by now, but when I got back, no one was home. I took a shower, made rum punch and apple cider, and waited. Pia came in, followed by Beck. Sylvia entered last, and then I saw Nita holding Collins's hand. Surprised, I stayed quiet as Nita quickly explained. Don't be mad, Barnes. Collins didn't have anywhere else to go, so I invited her. No one should be alone on Christmas. I wasn't angry, but I wasn't happy either. Nita led me to Collins, and we went to the office to talk. Collins looked at me and said, I owe you an apology. I was selfish, and I disrespected you. I know I hurt you, and I'll live with the consequences. I need your forgiveness. I paused, then said, there were consequences. One of them was freeing me to have what I have now. I was bitter and resentful, but I'm not anymore. I'm sorry I caused you that pain, she said. I forgive you, I replied. You'll always be their mother, Collins. You're welcome here anytime, Nita told me. She likes you, I added. The girls say you've changed. That's good, Collins said. I hope you have a happy life. I'm going to, I said. And if you can accept that, I'll think well of you. Can we be friends? She asked. We'll see, I said, but no nonsense. She laughed. No nonsense. You've landed on your feet, Barnes. I'm still figuring things out. Nita knocked on the door. We're ready to eat. We sat down for dinner. Pia said grace, and the room filled with laughter. I looked at Nita as she smiled and winked at me. Pia was sneaking bits of food to Debbie, who was lying by her feet. The girls chatted nonstop, and Collins seemed to be enjoying herself. It looked like it was going to be a good Christmas after all.